When you are building, cultivating, and harvesting from a food forest, that takes actually a lot of little chores, little daily things that really build up success. So today we're going to look at specifically some little chores like plantings, harvesting, and seed collecting that really make this place go. I have several small planting projects going on right now, one of which involves a brand new guild that was, the whole thing entirely has been planted this season. But just when the lady behind the camera says that she's done buying plants and planting them this season, just ignore her. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So here I have the beginnings of a happy little guild. I have a nectarine tree. Beneath it, a perennial kale. Some gooseberries for the shady side on the north. So this tree is going to be casting a little bit of shade on the gooseberries, which is fine because they don't mind growing in the shade. I've got some yarrow I put down for ground cover, and also just have a tomato here. It's not perennial, but it can take up the space right now while we decide which other perennials we want to put there. But that's all that's been done for this year, and probably is going to be all that's done this year, but that's the beginning of a little guild. Okay, so fast forward about a week after I said that, and I went and got some bee balm. There it is. It's purple type, and I think that would be a really good thing to have right down there to use as a ground cover around that little nectarine. And since there's already going to be gooseberries on one side, we'll put the bee balm on the other side. All right, so there it is right down there. The variety is called balmy purple. So we'll see what shade it is exactly. It's just starting to put up some buds, so we'll see pretty soon here. And it's morning right now, a little after 10, maybe getting close to 11. So you can see it's getting some dappled shade from the nectarine, but that's going to change here pretty soon as the sun moves forward a bit in the yard. And there it is, a better beginning to a little nectarine guild. We had a series of unfortunate events involving some chives, a broken pot, and a hole dug by a stray dog that actually turned out to be rather fortunate after all. So here by the front steps, we've got an area that desperately needs weed whacking, and my husband came the other day to pick up this pot so he could weed whack it, and it fell apart, and you can see it contains chives, and they are chives that are going to seed. So what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to take the seed heads, because we are going to get several days worth of rain, and I don't want these to get soaked and drop their seeds over here. I'll plant them elsewhere, and then after the rains pass, we will go and put this lovely bundle of chives into the ground somewhere in the food forest. But first, just for today, we're going to gather these seed heads. Here in the semicircle around the campfire, you can see there's an area we have not yet mulched. And that happens to be the spot where the stray dog dug a hole. And we'll probably get around to this either in the fall or next season. I got other projects going right now. But this is where the chives ended up. Right where that stray dog dug a hole, next to a smoke tree, next to the witch hazel. So when we do get this all filled in with some mulch and really start planting this out for the food forest next year, it will already have an established bunch of chives. So at the base of my hazelnut here, I have some crimson clover that is all spent, and you can see it's put on these big fluffy seed heads. And so I'm going to collect these today. You know, at first when I planted crimson clover, I was really kind of put off by the fact that by June these dry up and kind of go all scrappy. But if these are going to be putting nitrogen in the ground when they die back, well then these are currently supplying this hazelnut with some nitrogen in the soil. And I'd like to collect these seeds to then put some crimson clover, excuse the noise, there's a truck going by. I'm going to sprinkle some of these seeds underneath each of my fruit trees, and then every year the fruit trees can all have some clover supplying them with a little nitrogen back in the soil. You can also see that in the shade of this hazelnut I put an elephant ear, also known as a taro, I believe. And that's looking pretty nice too. So one of the things that I'm trying to do in my food forest is also to breed plants that are equipped to do well in this environment. And as such, I'm allowing things to cross. For example, I'm allowing my mustards to cross. I allowed my spinach mustard and old-fashioned and giant red and curly mustards to all cross this season, and I'm going to be planting those year after year and selecting for the traits that do well here and that also taste good. So some of the things you're going to see in my food forest is me letting things go to seed and look really scrappy. That includes the clover, that includes the mustard, that includes the snap peas, because I am collecting the seeds from the plants that perform the best so that year after year I can have a better crop, a crop that's more suited to right here. So you can see here the fallen over mustard is not a pretty sight. This got really top heavy here, but it's put on some nice pods. If I can get the camera to focus in on them. There we go. And we've got a couple of them here. This one here was the old-fashioned, and the bigger one was the spinach mustard, which I was really impressed with. So this is a future chore. When these dry out, you don't want to try to harvest them while they're green, but they'll dry out and go crispy, and then they'll start to pop open, and that's when I need to come out and do the chore of collecting them. It's going to be a much bigger chore, as you can see, than the clover, but that's a future kind of smaller chore here around the food forest. I've got a few mustards that are still in bloom, but that's going to be a much bigger but still small chore. Right now, one of the small chores in the food forest is actually harvesting. Now, harvesting is not yet a big chore in my food forest because it's young. It's just an emerging food forest. It's just at its beginnings. So a lot of my harvests look like a dozen cherries or a handful of blueberries or a couple of cabbages. And so as of right now, these are small chores that in the future will one day be bigger. So for example, when my apple trees get full size, they can produce 200 to 400 pounds of fruit each, and I have 7 of them. So if I have a good apple year 10 years down the line, I could be harvesting a literal ton of fruit, and that would be a really big chore. But for right now, these chores are small. Looky here. Got a few fat blueberries here on the way. That's nice. This brings our blueberry harvest up to a whopping 48 blueberries. Woohoo! Now, if I wanted to brag and seem really successful, I would tell you that we have collected 10 times more blueberries this year than we did last year. But you know what Mark Twain said? There are lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics. Because the truth is, last year we collected 4 or 5, and this year we're probably going to collect close to 50. Hey, guess what? I get to do a chore today that I've never done before. See those right there? I get to harvest successful cabbages that I grew myself. Bam. Oh, look at that. That is a nice head of cabbage. You could sell that in a grocery store. Oh, look, we got a little bit of caterpillar damage in there. Not a lot. That's pretty good looking. This one's a little smaller, but I don't mind. Gonna make some really beautiful coleslaw. Alright, let's see how this goes. Well, it's almost 3.5 pounds, 1.5 kilos. That's respectable. And almost 2 pounds and a little under 1 kilo on the purple. Not bad. So the day-to-day reality of building a food forest is that it's really comprised of a lot of little chores and really not so many big ones. At any rate, I hope you enjoyed the video today, and please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.